welcome to another video. Happy end of the year. I know, 2020, been a messy year. A lot of really annoying and overall heartbreaking things have happened this year. Some good things have happened this year, don't get me wrong, but I know that a lot of people are ready for this year to be over, and this is gonna be my last video of this year, 2020. So today I wanted to focus on the good of this year by breaking down my top 25 albums of the year. So this is the first video on my channel of me showing off my top 25 albums of the year, but I've done this for 3 years privately. This year it's a little more calculated. Basically how I came to come up with this list is I looked at how many songs on an album do I like out of the total number of songs on the album, and then also just songs that I'm listening to more often. If there's a no skip album, that's also a really good thing. And I think you'll realize that, do I have a genre bias towards pop and then some of the alternative that I've gotten into this year? Yes. However, I think there's pretty much representation from a lot of different groups, and I'm really proud of my listening in 2020. If your album did not make that list, check the link down below to my album spreadsheet of every album I've ever listened to. Maybe I have never heard it, so then you can leave that in the comments below for me to listen to it, and I can listen to it in the coming year. If I did leave something out that I have listened to before, feel free to comment about that in the comments down below as well. Also, for the purposes of this list, I did leave off any albums that I listened to of people who I know personally. For example, I dropped an album this year. My friend Alana dropped an album this year. My friend Kara also dropped an album this year. And those three, by how I calculated it, would probably have fit into the top 25, but I'm leaving them out because I didn't want to have any personal bias regarding it. Don't pay too much attention to the overall order, like if it's 24 versus 25, it's all good. Anyways, let's get into it. Starting off with 25, we have Love is an Art by Vanessa Carlton. This is a lovely album that I oftentimes forget how much I like it, but I do like most of the tracks on here. It's kind of like a little alternative. It's kind of a little indie feeling. I find it really interesting because when you think of Vanessa Carlton, you think of 1,000 miles. And I'd walk 1,000 miles if I could just see you, which has been obviously the target of a lot of memes and also just a lot of people who do like the song. But this is very far from that. And I'm really glad I checked it out. I pretty much only checked it out because I recognize her name, and it ended up making my top 25, which is pretty good. It's a good album. Definitely recommend if you're into alternative, if you're interested in a lot of piano and stuff like that. It's a fun time. For number 24, we have Smile by Katy Perry. I did a reaction, and I will be putting video links to any reactions I did to these albums, just so you can get more of my thoughts on them. But I liked Smile. Would I consider it better than some of her previous works? No. But it is a very positive album, and there's a lot of tracks I can just see myself and have seen myself listen to regularly. Songs like Never Really Over, obviously going to be amazing, but also Daisies, Resilient, The Cry About It Later. There's just a lot of tracks on here that are just feel-good songs, and if you don't listen to the album in full, you can definitely have a song on pretty much any playlist, which is really nice. At 23, we have Positions by Ariana Grande, and at first I was a little ambivalent on the album. There's a lot of songs on here that I can listen to, but I'm not gravitated towards. But there's some standouts that just are incredible, and I'm glad that she's done a follow-up to Thank You Next. I really like Safety Net featuring Ty Dolla $ign. Didn't really realize that I would like a Ty Dolla $ign song that much, but I do. POV, Motive, Just Like Magic, probably the top of the top there. And overall, I'm glad that we got a little quarantine release from her. At 22, we have Good News by Megan Thee Stallion. And oh, loved this, debut album from her. Long album to react to, but lovely listen to have. And I just really love the energy and the passion that Megan brings to her rap game. And it sounds good. Like, I personally really enjoy this album. And, like, if this album, as her debut, is this good, like, her future projects are going to be awesome. And I can't wait to see what she comes up with. 21, we have 321 by Lennon Stella. And I really enjoyed this album. Like, pretty much like less popular pop, I would classify her genre on here as. Jealous is probably one of my favorite tracks. Like, it was a track I listened to a lot this year, and Golf on TV is also a good one as well. And there's plenty of other tracks to just fill in the mix of just some light pop moments that really made this year a little more bearable. At 20, we have Such Pretty Forks in the Road by Alanis Morissette. And again, I'm so happy I've gotten into her work this year, like a lot more than just a Jagged Little Pill moment. And she's still popping out some good albums. Like, Such Pretty Forks in the Road is a great album. Some tracks I really like from it: Blaze, Pedestal, Losing the Plot, I think are my top 3. But she just gave us an album after, like, not giving us an album for a long time. And, like, it's still good. It's still relevant. It's still fresh. Like, and I'm really happy that she's still a part of the music community. At 19, we have Calm by 5 Seconds of Summer. This is such a fun album. Like, you have songs like Teeth. You have songs like Wildflower. Like, you have Red Desert. You just, like, pretty much the entire album is just like bop, 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 bop. And, like, I think a lot of people thought 5 Seconds of Summer was, like, kind of like part of that boy band movement, like the One Direction, like the Big Time Rush, like whatever the other boy bands were. I wasn't really into them at that time. But, like, with their last release, Youngblood, and now hearing them here, like, they're a force to be reckoned with in an age where there's not that many boy bands. Like, the only other people I think of when I think of, like, boy bands, like, today is, like, BTS, which is a completely different genre. So, like, the fact that 5 Seconds of Summer has maintained its relevancy and is still making songs that are really fun to jam to, I consider that a win. At 18, we have a Dedicated Side B by Carly Rae Jepsen. Dedicated last year was an awesome album, thoroughly enjoyed it, and her creating a side B was just so lovely. This album has no skips to me. Like, it doesn't hit as hard as, like, an Emotion or even the original Dedicated, but, like, it's all good. There's nothing offensive about it. There's nothing, like, that bothers me on it. Like, it's some nice, good ambient pop sound, and I personally really like it. I think Fake Mona Lisa is my favorite on there, but I think this album's going to need more listens from me as well, just because it is good and there's a lot going on. At 17, we have Therapy Sessions by David Archuleta. Yeah, you probably haven't heard David Archuleta's name in, like, a long time. Like, he did stuff with Disney for a hot moment, and then he's been on, like, so many different record labels. Like, they don't keep him for a long time. But, like, this relatively short album about mental health was just so lovely to have in 2020. Like, I don't think it was intended to come out during quarantine, but it did. And, like, it really felt like a quarantine album, like an album to be listened to in quarantine rather than that it was made in quarantine, because it wasn't. And, like, I just love him being vulnerable about his mental health. Like, that's not something we hear a lot from a lot of male artists, and I'm really here for it. It's also, like, good, like, pop music from male artists, which we don't get that much of. And I'm really glad that he dropped this. It's, again, another album that really is no skips for me, and I'm really glad he dropped it. At 16, we have Heaven and Hell by Ava Max, a lovely project, like, for her debut album. Like, as much as I don't really fully get the heaven versus hell moments, there's just a lot of good songs on it, like fresh pop that doesn't feel like it's recycling from like the 80s, which, as much as I love those artists, I'll get into that soon. Like, it was nice to hear a sound that felt very clean, very pure pop. Like, we had like OMG What's Happening, Born to the Night, Rumors, like Call Me Tonight, like just so many good songs that came out on this project, in addition to songs that we had heard before from her that were added to the album. Like, it was a good time, and I'm really excited to see what Ava Max has in store for us. At 15, I have Dear Happy by Gabrielle Aplin. Like, oh my gosh, like, I listened to one of her songs, I think it was Like You Say You Do, on like just like a New Music Friday or something like that, and I just fell in love with her music. Like, I would consider her a more experimental Selena Gomez. Like, her voice just sounds a lot like Selena, in my personal opinion. But like, her sound and how she creates songs, she has so much going on, like genre bending, like songs I'm like, ooh, and then like songs that I could probably cry to. Like, there's a lot on this album. I don't think it's her first, but it's the first one I've listened to, and I'm really excited to continue listening to her, seeing what she's done before as well as what she's going to do in the future. At 14, we have Rainbow Boy by Keenan Lonsdale. If you've never heard of that name, he's the guy who plays Bram in Love, Simon. And I just checked this album out like on a whim, and oh, I just really liked it. He talks a lot about being not straight and being black in a place that doesn't really like either of those things. And like, his music style is so interesting. Like, I don't think I can fully put it into words. Like, he mixes like styles that are typically considered like world music of Africa with like, you know, modern pop and like R&B and like alternative. There's just everything in it. And my favorite is the last song, On My Wave, I think it's called. Like, I just really like it. It's a whole experience. It's something that you should listen to from front to back, not a shuffle kind of album. But like, there's just a lot going on in it. And it's another one that now I like every single song on it. And I definitely need to dive into it because, unfortunately, my album listening habits is that I listen to a lot of albums rather than listening to certain albums for a long, long time. Like, so unfortunately, I don't think I've fully been able to grasp everything from it. But I think that's what's so exciting, is that I can listen to it a few times and there's still so much more to get from it. And I'm really excited. At 13, we have Ungodly Hour by Chloe and Halle. Oh, this is a fun album. The title track alone, like, song of the year, like, at least like, it should get something, because like, oh, it's just so much fun. That song gets stuck in my head. A lot of other songs get stuck in my head, or they're just songs to really groove to. Like, they put a lot into it, and it really shows. And I'm personally excited to see where they go. I haven't actually listened much to Chloe and Halle before this album, and I know where my next stop is to listen to their old stuff, because like, it's a good album. I really like it. There's so much going on in it, and it deserves a lot of love. At 12, we have Punisher by Phoebe Bridgers. This holds a lot of love in my heart because it was the first album I reacted to on my channel. Like, it was so nice to dive in to this, you know, YouTube reacting thing with an album that was just as good as Punisher. Like, she's so interesting, every time I listen to a project by her, I just learn more and more about her as a person and her style. And Punisher just has so much. I think Chinese Satellite's one of my favorites on there. ICU's also still a favorite. I Know the End. Like, Kyoto also, like, I heard that, like, in my dentist's office, and I was like, wait, it went a little mainstream a little bit. I just really like the direction that Phoebe Bridgers has gone, and I'm so excited to continue listening to her older stuff, as well as seeing what happens in the future. Like, is she going to do really well at the Grammys? I don't know. Like, is she gonna do just, like, amazingly? I think she's now gotten a lot more acclaim and much more recognition, and I think, you know, her next project is gonna be so cool. At 11, I have Confetti by Little Mix. This album is just so much fun, and I'm sad that now Jessie will not be a part of it, like the next album or a lot of like touring or anything like that, if we can tour. But like, this album is just so fun. Like, I mean, starting from Breakup Song, going into Holiday, going into Sweet Melody, going into Confetti, the title track, going into Happiness, like, all of that, like, they don't let us breathe. Like, it's just pure pop perfection, and I'm so happy I got to listen to it, and I hope that a lot more people pay attention to them, because they are a force to be reckoned with. They're not just some random girl group that can't survive outside the 2010s. Like, they can. They do great stuff. And just because they're across the pond from me and possibly you, that doesn't mean you should count them out. Like, they're fun. And if you like happy music, highly recommend. Probably will be going into their older works at some point because I thoroughly enjoy it. At 10, we have Heartbreak Weather by Niall Horan. Oh, this was such a lovely album to listen to. Like, Niall is my favorite of the 5 former members of One Direction, and I really love the sound that he's done. Flicker was so amazing. Heartbreak Weather is this lovely sequel, basically. And he experiences so much different sounds, like Small Talk and Nice to Meet You have a different vibe than maybe like Heartbreak Weather, the title track, or Arms of a Stranger, or New Angel. Like, there's just so much going on this album, and it fits him really well. Like, I thoroughly enjoy the music that he's putting out, and I'm really excited. Like, I don't even care if he goes into a completely different direction or if he stays in that similar acoustic lane, because honestly, he can do what he wants. All his music sounds really good, and I like it. Number 9 is The Album by Blackpink. Like I said pretty much before on my reaction, like, my problem with the album is that it's too short, and that's it. That's my only critique with it. Otherwise, it's 8 songs that are all lovely, like How You Like That, going to Ice Cream, going to Pretty Savage, going to Bet You Wanna, probably my favorite, going into Love Sick Girls, going into Crazy Over You, going to Love to Hate Me, going to You Never Know. Like, I don't typically memorize a track list in order like that, but one, because it's short, and second, because I love all the songs on it, like, I'm gonna memorize it because it's so good. Like, stop counting K-pop out if you do. Stop. Like, if you like pop, listen to K-pop. If you don't like pop, you'll probably not like K-pop. But that's because it's pop, not because it's Korean. Like, it's pop, and it sounds so good. And yeah, I really like Blackpink a lot. And I hope you give them a chance if you haven't already. At number 8, we have Fetch the Bolt Cutters. And yes, this one I did a re-listen to recently because I listened to it close to when it had come out. And I just got, like, shook listening to it. Like, it's so good. Like, anything Fiona does is, like, really good. And hearing, like, her again, now that I've listened to some more of her projects, it's been rather lovely. Like, I love how political she gets. I love how personal she gets. I love how experimental she gets. Like, it's just a lovely album, and there's a reason why it's so highly rated on like album of the year and those Metacritic and like those other types of things. Like there's a reason for it. It's because her music is really good. It's really clever. It's very interesting. Like I'm not bored. You can say you don't like Fetch the Bolt Cutters, but you're not bored on it. That's for darn sure. And yeah, I think like she's never tried to keep up with a lot of trends, and I'm glad because it makes her music so interesting and distinct. And I hope we get a new album in less than another 8 years because like I love how she's gone in this direction. I think my favorites are like Shamika, Drum Set, like those type of songs. They're just really fun and groovy, and as a percussionist, I love them. At number 7, we have Evermore by Taylor Swift. Not only did she drop an amazing album in July, but she then dropped another amazing one in December. This album hasn't been around for that long, and it's sad because I can't give it like a full time to digest. But I find it really important to mention it because it's been on a lot of my listening and my daily walks. Like, I just love the album. Like, Gold Rush, oh my god, top tier. Long story short, top tier. Marjorie being like the one song that I've ever cried during a reaction for. Like, check. Like, there's just so many good songs on it, and I love her continuing in this indie folk like alternative side. Like it suits her in a way that I don't think really any of us had expected, and I'm glad she went there. At number 6, we have Manic by Halsey. I'm thoroughly loving this album. Like, it came out so early in the year, and like I kind of like got back into it like within the past month, and it's still so good. Like, we love someone talking about their mental health, and it's so interesting because this breaks genres in ways that most albums don't. And like she can go from country to pretty like auto-tuned stuff with like Dominic's interlude like pretty quickly, and it doesn't seem off. Like she can have a Lannis feature and also a BTS feature. Like how'd you do that? And she did it because she's Halsey and she's incredible at what she does, and she deserves a lot more credit than she's given, and it's very frustrating that she doesn't get that. But I personally thoroughly enjoyed this album. Like, it's an album I would say is probably, like, I think aside from, I'm not like the biggest fan of the Sugar interlude, it's just like fine. But other than that, like it's pretty much like a no skip album. And like that's incredible considering how long it is and how distinct and different each song is. Like the songs don't sound similar to each other pretty much. Like it's still cohesive, but in a way that's like, oh, we're going all over the place. And I love it. It's a fun time. It's good to listen to it. As someone who does deal with mental health things, like an album that feels like it was made for someone who has mental health things, it's lovely. And I thoroughly enjoy it. And it deserves a lot more credit than it's being given. Now we get into my top 5 albums of the year. And I've loved the 20 I've already talked about so far, but I'm going to really love these last 5. At number 5, we have Petals for Armor by Hayley Williams. Hayley Williams is the lead person for Paramore, and she's been lovely with all her Paramore projects. And it was so interesting to hear her like on a solo project. Like, I'm hoping that this doesn't mean that Paramore will break up. Like, they have no inclination that says they have. But like, she can do another solo project. I'm happy with that. Like, Simmer, oh, Over Yet? Yes. Like, Taken. There's so many good songs on here. And it's another one I need to go into more, but it's a nice album to either just really vibe to or dance to. Like, you can do whatever you want with it. And I think that's what's really cool about what Haley Williams is doing here. She's just kind of experimenting with different things. And it feels pretty like old school, like very alternative kind of vibes. And I'm a fan of it. I know a lot of other people are fans of it, but it should be talked about a lot more than it's getting talked about. And overall, just thoroughly enjoy it. At number 4, we have Plastic Hearts by Miley Cyrus. Now, I've been waiting for the She Is Miley Cyrus album for a long time. And, you know, it's called Plastic Hearts instead. But I'm just so happy that we got an album from her. And it's so good. I love it. Like, as soon as I heard Midnight Sky and that she was going to be dropping an album at some point, I was like, this is going to be really good. I'm going to really like it. I'm going to, like, love it. And I did. Thoroughly love it. Like, the fact that you can start with WTF Do I Know? Amazing. Going into Plastic Hearts? Amazing. Going to Angels Like You? Amazing. Like, that 3 run, there's a lot going on there. And she's not giving us a break. And, like, oh, there's just so good. Like, you thought she couldn't top Midnight Sky? And she kind of does. Like, especially with keeping up that vibe. Like, she has incredible features like Night Crawling and Bad Karma. Like, this album, like, just so many, like, career highlights and just songs that show us that she's a force to be reckoned with. And I personally have loved most of the albums that she's put out before, but I really like that now it seems like this album has shown people that, wow, Miley is someone to be taken seriously in the industry. And, you know, I wish it hadn't taken this long for people to realize that, but I'm glad that it's being shown here and that we got this amazing album to prove it. And I hope we get another amazing project from her in the near-ish future. I know you just released something, Miley, but I will take whatever you get of us, because literally, like, She Is Coming was amazing, Slide Away was amazing. Like, if you want to give us more songs, always down for it. At number 3, we have Future Nostalgia by Dua Lipa. Oh, wow. If this album wasn't one of the defining albums of your 2020, what were you doing? Did you hear any of this? Like, like, revolutionizing 80s. Like, I'm sure I mean, I know she's not the only one, but, like, I feel like she's carried it, like, the most. Like, Dua Lipa literally went from being someone who, like, oh yeah, I know a couple songs from her debut. Like, I had listened to her debut, like, fully, but, like, one for many people had just been like, oh yeah, she's, like, made a couple songs. But now she's like, boom, like, I'm a star. My Studio 2054 is iconic. Like, I did a cool Club Future Nostalgia moment just for fun. She literally just makes stuff that's worth listening to and so fun, and you discover something new each time. And, like, if you can do that with an 11-song album that runs for, like, 40 minutes, like, I'm so excited to see what you're gonna do for your third project. Like, she literally has had so much of an era from her first album, and she's having so much of an era now, even in the midst of a pandemic. Like, I'm so excited to see what she decides to do next. I mean, the next thing I'm waiting for is a FKA Twigs song that she and FKA Twigs worked on together. I'm ready for that to be released pronto because I want to listen to that. But, like, even more in the future, like, I don't think we'll be ready for when the third album hits. I just don't think we'll be ready. I mean, I'm excited for it, but I don't think we're ready for it, if that makes sense. At number 2, we have Sawayama by Reyna Sawayama, a legend who deserves way more and is getting a lot more attention, like, this fall. Like, I think with her Jimmy Fallon performance, and I'm seeing a lot of the people who I watch, like, now start to cover her, which is good because she should be covered, because she's been living rent free in my head since like May, and like Exodus was my top song of the year, and yeah, like this album is just so good. Listen to it front to back, listen to songs by themselves, listen to it however you want to, because no matter what, you're gonna like each and every track. You're going to love the deluxe stuff. Like, I love the deluxe stuff a lot. It's good. Like, she doesn't do bad songs. She's not half-hearting anything. She's not going to do something that just doesn't fit. And everything that she's made, oh my god, it's just so good. Like, I fully love it. And I hope that we will be getting more stuff from her in the near-ish future. I know we just got deluxe, like, literally this month. But, like, that's her debut album. How do you go up from there? Like, that's where I want the future of music to go. And you did that on your debut. How did you do that? I don't know. But again, much like with Dua Lipa, I don't think we're going to be ready when her second studio album drops. Like, I just don't think we'll be ready for what's to come. Like, oh my god. Literally love this album. Deserves way more. Deserves all the awards that she's either ineligible for or wasn't nominated for. And I'm still a little salty on that. But Reyna Sawayama, you have my whole heart. Love you. Hope you're doing well. And I'm going to keep standing. And then finally, my number one album, perhaps you could say my album of the year, although pretty much I would say anything in the top 10 would be considered album of the year material for me. My number one album is Folklore. After looking at my Spotify Wrapped, I couldn't not pick it. I listened to most of those songs dozens of times. Fully enjoy it. I listened to Folklore right in preparation for Evermore, right as a release, and I was like, wow, why is every song hitting? I was like, that's a lot to deal with. But she literally made that album in 3 months, and I don't get that. I just don't get it. She made that, and it was so good. And then she made another one, and I was like, great, amazing. But I think Folklore having that iconic status of being an album that was announced 16 hours before dropping, plus that all the songs are amazing, plus that's a new direction, plus that Taylor Swift could be the first woman to win Album of the Year 3 times. It deserves a lot of love, and it's been getting a lot of love. I understand, it's pretty much on nearly everyone's top albums of the year, but for me, it's reinvigorated that love that I've had for her for many years. And I mean, I'm not asking for a 10th album anytime soon, Taylor. Give us a break to digest your 7th, 8th, and 9th studio albums. But again, she proves time and time again she's a force to be reckoned with. And she only gets better, honestly. And yeah, I would say, The One is one of my favorite songs on there. Mirror Ball, This Is Me Trying, Cardigan, My Tears Ricochet. I'm gonna start naming pretty much every track on the album if I keep going. But that album is just so good. I think 10 or 12 of the songs from Folklore are on my top 100 songs of the year. And just that fact alone is wild. It means she made an album that I was listening to a lot. And it's not just because it's Taylor Swift, it's because these songs are really good. And yeah, if you have not listened to it, if you've lived under a rock and did not listen to Folklore this year, what are you doing? Go listen to it, please. You will not regret it. I'm so happy that it's in my life this year. It's not something I expected to happen in 2020, but most things I didn't expect to happen in 2020. And I'm glad it's here, and I'm glad that people are giving it the love it deserves. So with that, we have finished my list of the top 25 albums of the year. What are some of the albums on here that you also really vibe to? What albums on this list did you not vibe to? What albums did I miss? What albums should I listen to in the future? What albums were snubbed? What albums deserved more? Like, if it's on my list, like, it deserves to be there. It's not like number 25, like, is so much worse than 1, so you don't need to comment on that kind of stuff. But, like, what did I miss? What did you love this year? What did you not love this year? I mean, let's focus more on the positive, but you can go into your little rambles if you want to as well. This, again, will be my last video of 2020, and I'm really excited to enter 2021. 2020 is my first year of being back on YouTube after a hot minute, and my first time doing like music reactions, which is what I really love doing, and talking about music because it's something I do so regularly, and I feel like I'd continue sharing that passion with you. I have bunches of more videos coming out in 2021 that I'm so excited to make, edit, and like release to you all. So hope you're staying along for the ride, and hope you have an excellent new year as well. If you like this video, please like it. Please comment down below if you'd like me to react or listen to next. Please subscribe to my channel if you're not already and you'd like to be. And thanks for watching. This is TurtleStormer. Catch you later. It's storming turtles from out of the sky. Turtles don't need to know why. Smile big, open your eyes. It's storming turtles. It's storming.